A big part of my practice has been to look at this idea of being completely content, being completely whole in solitude, independent of anyone or anything. Um, I kind of, for whatever karmic reason, am an extroverted person. I'm a romantically driven person. So I just kind of naturally have found my happy place amongst people and community and connection. But this notion of, like Seisan always quotes the koan, to sit alone on Daiyu Peak, right? Someone asks one of the teachers in a koan or a Buddhist story, what is the greatest thing or what is it to be Buddha? And he says, sitting alone on Daiyu Peak. That kind of complete autonomy, completely independent of what anyone thinks of me, who approves of me, who's in my life, who's not in my life, how many people are in my life, to be totally free of that has been such a major focus of my practice since I was a kid. I'm still working on it. And of course, that has to, beg the opposite, which is that a lot of people are introverts and their happy place is being away from people. And equally important for those folks in their spiritual practice is community practice and putting themselves out there and working with people and butting up against people and learning how to connect. That's the bodhisattva vow, is to show up for others. So it's not about one or the other, right? It's not like we should all be going to live in a cave somewhere and finding our peace by ourselves. And it's not the opposite. We have to kind of find our balance. And so for me, the work that I really need to do is finding this peace, this wholeness, this autonomy outside of relationship or connection. Um, and the way that's kind of been showing up for me recently that I thought I'd talk about today, which I think is kind of interesting, is this notion of like falling in love with your life, falling in love with the universe. For those of you who are romantic minded like me, that might be something that's helpful. Um, because, it seems that there's so much energy that we put, I mean, throughout time, from Shakespeare to the Beatles to, everything, we put so much emphasis on romantic love. It really is kind of the heartbeat, it seems like, of so many cultures. And that could just be biological. It just could be because we're trying to make offspring. But whatever the reason, um, what if we channel that energy to the universe at large to fall in love with life? Like Mary Oliver is this kind of famous poet, right? And she has this famous line about, I'd like to be a bridegroom to the universe or something like that. Um, it's a nice poem. And and that I think is a really good metaphor, right? Because when I say fall in love with or love the universe, love your life, that's not just the butterflies in the tummy and the joyful hormone chemicals, rushing through your body. That might be part of it. But we're talking about this deepest love, this unconditional love, um, this love that keeps you around when you just can't stand the other person and you just want to smother them. But there's still, it's like that family love, that unconditional love. So it's not just, yeah, the having a crush or the lusting. I was trying to think of how to talk about it, but it's a kind of love, I think, that just makes you want to be there with them no matter what. So when they're treating you badly, when they're having a bad day, when you're having a bad day, when you're not matching up, when in sickness and in health, all that stuff, you still show up and you still want to be with that person. Well, what if we look at our life like that? And no matter what comes up, whether it's something beautiful like a sunset or the birds in the trees, falling in love with that, feeling a romance there. And I guess why I'm saying this is because for me, this practice of Zazen, intensive Zazen, not like, I'll sit here and there like when I want to, how I want to, but like coming to the Zendo, following the schedule, doing retreats, working with a teacher, practicing with a community, sitting when you don't want to, it really does cultivate this kind of romance. I don't know. For me, it has. There might be a lot of other practitioners who say they don't, right? We hear a lot of Buddhists talk about like, oh, detachment and I'm just neutral and I don't feel anything and everything. Well, I think the Buddha way is very different. I think the Buddha way is about falling in deep love with everything. The freeway concrete. Like Suzuki Roshi has this great quote um, in his Zen mind, beginner's mind. He goes back to one of the monasteries he used to live in China or Japan rather, and he just sees like a wall or a bridge or something on the monastery grounds, and he says he just started bawling. He says tears falling from my eyes and my nose, just thinking about all the work that had gone into building that bridge, all the people that had walked across that bridge, all the birds that have taken a shit on that bridge. And just that kind of oneness, that intimacy with everything, beings, animate, inanimate, sentient, non sentient. I don't know. I think it's very romantic. I think it's love. And I think we can cultivate this kind of romance with everything, including our anxieties and our depression and our loss and grief, our jealousy, our failures. Right? It's like when your romantic partner just could not be worse. And they look terrible and they smell terrible and they're treating you badly and they forgot to send your mom her birthday card and just, but you just love them. You just love them. And there's just something very powerful there that really helps with this kind of autonomy, this wholeness in solitude. Anyway, it's really hard to talk about. It really is more of an experience and a feeling that we get to cultivate ourselves. Um, but I wanted to say a little something about it and then offer a couple texts that might help illuminate and highlight this kind of romance with the universe. And the first one is a really famous poem from Rumi, right? Do we all know Rumi? Show of hands. Anyone doesn't know Rumi? Yeah, we all know Rumi. Um, well, you will now. I believe he was Persian, right? He was, yeah. Just amazing spiritual expressor. And so one of his famous poems is called The Guest House. And it goes, this being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. They may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So, yeah, can I be in love with my dark thought and my shame and my depression? I just love the spirit of this, right? So, this being human is a guest house. I mean, so much of his poetry is so Buddhist, even though I don't think he was one. I could be wrong. Can anyone correct me? He was a Sufi. Yeah. Yeah. So, guest house, impermanence. I think we know that. Um, and as we sit and meditate, we get so intimate with the fact that everything is changing, absolutely everything, all the time. Our mind is a guest house. Our body is a guest house. Our friends, our relationships, our sangha, our abbot is a guest house. Everything always changing. Um, and every morning there's a new arrival. What a lovely, it's such a good metaphor. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. So, yeah, again, like I read this poem and the idea of it is like so inspiring. Like, yes, I can just treat, everything as this, visitor that's coming to visit my experience. And it's really nice. But to really live that, to really manifest that on a daily basis, and to share that spirit and energy with others, um, takes practice and it takes work. It really does. And I'm only saying that, and I just want to encourage everyone to take advantage of this practice that can help you fall in love with all of your visitors. And we had 4 people in here sitting today, and 1 or 2, maybe 3 online. And now we have like 20 plus people here listening to this talk. And, coming to the talk is like shopping for baked goods through the window, So, yeah, it looks good through the window. But just imagine if you could just sink your teeth into those danishes or donuts or whatever. Just saying. Um, so the poem says, yeah, welcome and entertain them all. That's love. That's romance. When your beloved, man, I mean, I know the feeling when you're just truly in love with somebody and they do some awful stuff. They say some mean stuff and it just doesn't matter. It's hurtful and it's good to speak up and create boundaries, but you just want more. Um, not more abuse, but more of that person. Um, Another way I thought to think of this kind of deep love is you want to get to know them, right? When you love someone or you love something, don't you just want to like get to know everything about them? I do. So curious. Uh, I know parents with their children, they want to get to know their children so well, how they're doing, how they're developing, how they're growing. Um, And, even Dogen Zenji has that famous line about Zen practice: to study the Buddha ways, to study the self. We get to know ourselves. We get to know our guests, right? That's what Zazen is in a way, is being the best Airbnb host, the best bed and breakfast owner. Really get to know your guests. Welcome them, entertain them. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Ah, gosh, I know what that feels like. Think about that. Everyone get in touch with whatever that was, losing a parent, some kind of trauma, some kind of failure, an entire redirection of your life out of your control. Someone abuses you or takes advantage of you and just changes everything, and all your friends hate you. Just, whatever has happened that swept your house. What would it be like to meet that with love, with appreciation, with wanting to get to know it better, to be with it? I still want to be with that. And yeah, sometimes that can make the emotions stronger. I have no doubt that Zen practice has made me more sensitive. And when I'm in love and feeling romance, it is giant love and romance. And when I am feeling sad and rejected and hopeless, it is massive hopelessness. But it's all from this love. So I don't know. That's interesting. I know a lot of people are drawn to Buddhism because it's like, oh, I can be a stone man and not feel anything, and everything just rolls off my back. That's not the Buddha way that I practice. Um, it's not the Buddha way that was handed down from Seisin. And I don't think it's how the Buddha talks about it either. I think it's more about um, the more intimate, the more romantic we get with our life and our feelings and our thoughts and our sensations and our relationships and our earth, that is how we get to become one with them. And that's how we detach. So it's almost like this ironic, if you really want to experience detachment, then go in, experience it more deeply, more intimately. I don't know. That's my experience. And the only other thing I wanted to say about this poem, he says, the dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. I think from a Zen perspective, from the perspective of Zazen, I think I would write, meet them at the door crying and angry and invite them in. Right? Because this meet the darkness laughing, that's such a pathway to spiritual bypassing, you know, like, oh, well, I'm a Buddhist, so even though I'm really sad, I'm gonna laugh. Here I go, I'm laughing. Ha ha, I'm so happy about this. This is great. I don't feel anything. Um, that's not that's not it. That's not it. So the dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door, shameful and angry, and invite them in. Go in. That is how you take care of all of this stuff, I think. So I wanted to counterbalance the famous Rumi with something a little more esoteric and frustrating. So you're welcome. Um, let's see, case 72 in the book of Equanimity, the Shoyo Roku. This is, well, for those who are new, koans are kind of like stories or parables that we use as kind of practice gateways. And you work with a teacher on how to best manifest and express these koans. Very powerful practice. So, case 72, Kyozan asked Chuyu, what is the meaning of Buddha nature? And at this time, Kyozan is 13, apparently. So he's this little precocious boy who's curious about what all these monks are doing. So he asks the teacher, what is the meaning of Buddha nature? Buddha nature, our true nature, our true romance. What is the meaning of being in love with the universe? Chuyu replied, for your sake, I'll tell you a simile. There is a room with 6 windows, and in the middle is a monkey. A person outside calls, "Monkey, monkey," and the monkey responds. In like manner, when all of the 6 windows are called, they all respond. Kyozan, the little boy, asked, "What about when the monkey sleeps?" Chuyu got down from his meditation cushion and grabbed Kyozan, saying, "Monkey, monkey, you and I have just met." I love seeing everyone's face after I read a koan. Oh. So I think we can see that this room and this guest house are maybe pointing at the same thing. These 6 windows, um, Buddhism often talks about 6 senses as opposed to 5 senses, right? So eye, ear, nose, tongue, touch, body, and then mind would be the 6th sense. Consciousness, maybe you could say. Um, so what is Buddha nature? It's this guest house, receiving sights and sounds and smells and feels and thoughts and feelings. Um, and there's this monkey, this thing we think of as our little self. And yeah, people call out to us. People want us. People reject us. People need us. People, yeah, they call out for this little monkey that we are. And it says when all the windows are called, they all respond. Yeah, so a sound happens, are your response. And we see the latest tweet or X from our new leaders, and our mind responds. And so, yeah, I mean, the magic of this is our Buddha nature. All of these guests that come in to our guest house is itself Buddha nature. Nothing outside of your guest house. It's not about particular guests. It's not about cultivating this guest over that guest or this window over that window. We just allow everything to come in and we welcome it. Um, and then this kid, just check this out. He says, "What about when the monkey sleeps?" That's a sharp ass question, right? What about when we're not perceiving? Um, it reminds me of the Billie Eilish song, one of my favorite songs. She has what's it called? The dark one.
Yeah.
Um, what do you want from me? Why you went? No,
Oh,
no.
where do we go?
What is it?
I don't know what it is. Is
Damn.
that all like sleep? Where do we go? Yeah.
That's right. When we all fall asleep, where do we go? That is a pop artist lyric. Okay. That's, people talk about pop music being, cookie cutter or whatever. I don't know. I think we're in an age of pretty impressive depth in our pop artists. When we all fall asleep, where do we go? When we're not perceiving things, when I'm not separating myself in this world in a conscious way, what then? Where's the Buddha nature then? And the teacher comes down and shakes him and says, "Monkey, monkey, there you are." Or this translation says, "We've just met." I don't want to say too much about that. Let everybody kind of sit with that on their own. But I think, that too, that questioning, that unknown is Buddha nature. That is the monkey, your true self, your empty one self, and your little monkey self. It's all Buddha nature, no separation. And yeah, the more deeply we get in touch with that experience, I really think the more the world becomes our Valentine. So go fall in love with your life and invite stillness. I think it'll help.